So I grew up in New York. I was born in the Bronx, but I never lived in the Bronx. I always feel like it gave me credibility to have Bronx blood. My grandparents are all from the Lower East Side of New York City and then moved to the Bronx when it was like the country. That's how it was back then. The Bronx was actually the place that you would move to, not from. And my parents both grew up in the Bronx. So that's why I was born there because my mother wanted me to be born near where her mother lived. So, and the hospital is still there. And life went on. I always had a fascination with hippies. I would always like beg my mother to take me to go see the hippies, and she would take me to Washington Square Park, and they wouldn't be there, and I'd be like, "Where are they?" And she would always say, "Maybe they don't come out during the day, you know?" And that was like probably the worst thing she could ever tell me because I couldn't wait to be old enough to find out like what happens at night. So I went to school and stuff, and I was in a big hurry all the time. Like I was in a big hurry to get here, wherever here is. And I went to college when I was 16 because I was in the big rush that I was, and graduated when I was 20. And then I lived in a couple of different places along the way. I lived in Philly, I lived in DC, and I lived in London. And whenever I would leave New York, I often would get myself into trouble. And in New York, for some reason, it keeps me more, not out of trouble, but it keeps me more like careful in some ways. Not that I didn't dabble in a lot of dangerous situations and experiment in a lot of crazy things like growing up, but New York is where my home base is, and somehow on Manhattan Island, it keeps me safer than other places. So, in this love story of mine, person that I met at that time, it was a wild time in the city. There were no cell phones, there were no computers. You know, you used your quarters. Quarters were like so valuable because you needed them for phone, you needed them for Pac-Man and video games, and you needed them for laundry. So, you know, it was a time when change mattered, when I don't even know to this day how we got everywhere. We did, though. We met up, we got places, and we never ever needed GPS. And now I don't know how I would ever live without GPS, but somehow these were the days pre that. And I was working on Ninth Street in Manhattan in the East Village, which was very bad then. Not bad. It was really cool actually, but like you wouldn't go past certain blocks. And it was like when Tompkins Square had people like really living in tents, and you wouldn't really go past Avenue B because it was dangerous. Now there's $1 million apartments on Avenue D, which is crazy. And my grandparents, going back to them, they lived over there back in the days way before. And it's like this whole cycle. Like my grandparents couldn't understand why I was so wanting to be in the East Village and the Lower East Side, which is where they got out of. And it's just like, I would be like, God, I wish you kept your apartment, you know? But anyhow, I was working in a vintage clothing store on Ninth Street called Roses. And there was a bar right next door to it called the Aztec. The Aztec was a really cool bar, and it was just a great spot. It had those skeletons that, if you ever saw the movie Desperately Seeking Susan, in the bag that Madonna used to carry, it had the skeletons. My partner would know the artist. I forget everything. I retain nothing. But like the artist was a very popular artist in the time. Had like those skull scarves, and everything was skulls. But there was these skull things that the Aztec had in there, I believe. And I had a friend. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say his name or not, but I'll call him JB. And he came into my store. I know dates. Dates are very important to me. I don't know why. I read into everything, but numbers are very big for me. And it was February 9th, And that's when it snowed a lot too. Like, I don't know if technology has anything to do with snow because there's been no snow this winter. And that winter, there were tons of snow. Snow like up to here. Like, winter used to be really winter. And it was February and it was winter. It was cold. And I lived then on Mulberry Street, which was Little Italy, which now is called NoHo. And it's so chic, chic, chic. When I lived there, it was like bodega, bodega, Mr. Gotti. Mr. Gotti used to take his strolls around the block. Like, you knew when he was on the block. You could smell his cologne, and he was so nice. He would be like, hello, ladies. He was so nice. But that block was so cool then, and now I go there, and I feel like one of the little old ladies that used to sit on the sidewalk, and I go like, oh, it's like chic boutique, chic cafe, chic, chic, chic. It's like Avenue D now. So, like, all these neighborhoods that were so different are not like that anymore. But back to 9th Street. So JB comes into Rose's where I worked, and he says, what are you doing tonight? Now, I'm a songwriter, and I write a lot, but I'm very unorganized type person. I don't like have a book. I write on scrap paper all the time. I have so many pieces of scrap paper with everything written on it. I just like, journals are difficult for me because when I was a kid, I did start journaling, and then people would read them. And that happened to me multiple times, and other things happened where my journals got, I don't know. So I have trust issues too. Like, I just have all these issues. So anyhow, I write on scraps of paper more than I write in a formalized book. So I remember that day specifically. It's so bizarre because I was writing that day because I noticed on my hand, I had a ring from one of my grandmothers. I had a bracelet from my other grandmother, and then I had a ring that I found in the bathroom at the Aztec, on the Aztec floor. And I was like, what is the significance of the ring from my grandmother, the bracelet from my grandmother, and the ring that I found on the Aztec bathroom floor? And I wrote all about this. And I was like, it was a Monday night. I was like, I'm not going out tonight. No sex, no drugs, no rock and roll. I am going home, and then in walks JB. And he says, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, nothing. I'm going home. And he says, oh, come on. Let's go to the Cat Club, which used to be a bar club that's not here anymore. It's actually now a hotel. And I was just like, no, no, no. And he's like, come on, I have guest list passes and somebody's playing and we can go and have fun. And I was like, no, I don't want to go. I'm going home. And he said, well, will you go next door for a drink to the Aztec? And I said, no, I don't want to drink tonight. And he's like, come on. So he twisted my arm and I said, fine, I'll go next door. So I closed the store, go next door. And everyone then, like, we all were friends with the bartender. We all knew everybody, kind of. I mean, I always feel like I'm not like in the in crowd. Like, I know some people, and then I'm not in like the out. I always feel like I'm in the middle of like these people and these people. So I never fit in any group because I'm always in the middle of everything. I always see both sides of the track. I was supposed to be the doctor lawyer of my family, and I just always see both sides. It's really hard for me to pick one. So anyhow, we're in the Aztec, and I was wearing a Union Jack t-shirt underneath this big fur coat. Okay? The fur coat has a story too. I don't know if I'll get to that, but in walk these two guys, and they see my Union Jack shirt, and one of them was British. So they said, oh, are you British? And I'm like, no. And one of them was American and they said, oh, we just came off the plane from England, and and then the one who was American says, oh yeah, this is my friend, and I'm showing him around town, and this friend ends up being somebody that we just start talking, and JB knew him, the bartender knew him, and all the people knew him. And we never met until that minute, and it's because of the Union Jack T-shirt. So, and they said that they just got off a plane from England. Not true, but they said they did. So we're just talking, And it was like one of those things, like we felt like we knew each other, but we never did. And nobody thought we didn't know each other. Everyone thought we knew each other before that day. We had to like prove that we never knew each other because we knew a lot of the same people in that bar that night, but we had never met. So I kept looking at my rings and my bracelet and thinking, my grandmother, the Aztec bathroom. So somehow in that evening, I end up in the Aztec bathroom with this person, and I'm thinking in my mind, and I just thought in my mind, like, I can't believe it. I never knew what you would look like. I never thought you'd look like this. But I knew that second that this person was going to be in my life for a very long time. Now, I remember always even saying a very long time. I never said forever because I don't even know why. And very often to this day, I'm always like, has it been a very long time already? Like, it's been very far in the future now. And trust me, it's had a lot of bumps. And we're kind of going through a bump right now, a very big bump, but this is far into the future. So we get into the bathroom. I have this thought, and then I just knew something was up. So then that night somehow ended. I'm not going to say where, but a day or so goes by, and this is what he tells me, that he called me. Remember, no cell phones, and I said hello, and he always tells me when he said what's up that I somehow said, "Oh, I was waiting for you to call." Now, I don't really remember saying that, but I could have said that, and he remembers that I said that, and we started seeing each other, and this was, remember, February. So we started seeing each other, and we were living a little bit recklessly. We definitely partied quite a bit, and it was really fun, and it would be like crazy experiences and wild nights and wildlife and New York City after clubs, going to the Avenue B and C, places that you only went to after hours clubs. You would never go there in the day, and you would leave like when stray dogs were still foaming at the mouth when you'd get out of there in the morning saying like, oh my God, where am I? And somehow you'd make it back to your place in time to get to work. And that's how it was. And I knew that it couldn't go on like that. And I mean, we had times where he'd be banging on my door, "Let me in," and I'd be like, "No," and then I would, and it got really it was very, very emotional and very passionate. And then we somehow said, like, we will do or die. Do we want to die together, or do we want to live together? And we both knew that the wildness had to end if we wanted to live together and have a future. And then he started saying to me, I have to go away maybe on business. I might have to go away to Texas for a few years. And I'd be like, "Texas? Like, well, I'll come with you." I mean, what did I care? I worked in a vintage clothing store. It wasn't like a career. And he would just like drop these little clues that somehow something might happen where I might have to go away. And I believed whatever he said, whatever. So so then like one day I get a phone call from his job saying, somebody got arrested, and he's in Center Street, which is where they take you. And I'm just like, what? Oh my God. And I wrote on this pink piece of paper, this little me in my scrap paper, I wrote, "Oh my God, I will do whatever it takes. I will be with you forever. I will marry you. I'm going to stand by you." And I wrote thinking I could give him this note. And I ran down to Center Street because supposedly he was going to get arraigned or something. And I went into the courtrooms, and I couldn't find this pink piece of paper. but I didn't know that yet. And I think I saw him. I don't remember, but when I saw him, I didn't have the paper and it was freaking me out. I don't remember exactly. I went home because I didn't live that far from there. And then maybe that's when I realized I didn't have the paper, but I went back to there. And you know those doors that go like this? I went retracing my footsteps. And in this freaking door, believe it or not, in one of these doors that go like this, I saw that pink piece of paper on the floor. And in my headphones, I always had a Walkman, and I would always listen to the radio for some reason, because not always, but often I love radio. And on my headphones, as I'm picking up this paper, that song by Diana Ross and the Supremes, "Someday We'll Be Together," was in my headphones. And this is a moment I will never forget. And I find the piece of paper and I'm like, oh my God. And that's going in my ears. And it was just this moment of, I couldn't believe it. So then somehow he goes to Rikers Island. So I went visiting him at Rikers Island, and I would have to hide my Walkman outside the gates of, there was like a little dirt patch in a tree, and I would hide my Walkman there because you couldn't bring it in. And I'd visit him, and then he told me what happened, because I had no freaking clue as to what was going on. And he said that he had been arrested for this silly little thing for stealing $20 out of the pocket of some guy. One night he was hanging out with friends. They were drinking screwdrivers. They ran out of orange juice. He had to go to the deli to pick it up. And when he went to the deli, there were these two girls with this guy, and they were chatting him up. And he went into the store to get the orange juice. And when he went into his pocket, he had $20. It wasn't there. So his $20 was gone. So he came out and the girls were gone and the guy was still there. And he was like, "I want my $20. I want my $20. And the guy's like, "I didn't know those girls. I didn't do anything." And he said, "I want my $20. And the guy gave him $20. He goes into the store. When he comes out of the store, there were police there that arrested him for stealing the $20 from this guy who ended up being a DA. And he was with these girls. So that was the story I got. Anyway, he said he was arrested. He got 2 years. He was out on bail. He jumped bail. He was at work every single day. He knew they would find him, but he didn't want to go back. And eventually they found him at his job. And because he did that, he had 2 years to do. That's all I heard. That's all I knew. And it was like, okay. So they took him and he went from there. Then he went to another place, which was Beacon, I believe, New York, which is like another downstate, it's called. And then from there, he went all over New York State. I got the New York State prison tour. I heard of this was in April, okay? We met in February. April this happened. So we knew each other from February to April. He goes away, and then I start visiting him. And then I start hearing of a thing called trailer visits, that if you're married, you get to have a trailer visit. And I really wanted to see what a trailer was like. So I said, let's get married, or he did. And I was really curious to see what a trailer was like. So you get these conjugal visits. And he got moved to, after that place, he went to a place all the way up in the Adirondacks in Lake Placid, New York. And we started planning a wedding. And I met this girl. I would take a bus. It was probably 8 hours or some ridiculous thing. There was a bus company called Prison Gap. And they would take buses to take you up to these prisons and visit for your 7 hours or whatever it was. And then they'd take you on the bus back. And I started taking these buses, and I met this girl, and we were like Lucy and Ricky, and she and her person were like Fred and Ethel, and I felt like that's who we were. And I'm still friends with her to this day. She's no longer, that person has passed away, and she and I get all the wedding stuff together, and we got married in June. So we met February, he went away in April, we get married in June. Okay? Cool. So Anyhow, we get married June 27th.
While he's in prison?
Yeah. And the person who married us, I rented a car to go up there. It was pouring rain, like one of the worst rains you've ever seen, like you can't see in front of you. And my friend was like, rain is good luck. Rain is good luck. And we're driving. We were like, oh my God, it was crazy. We stay at this little motel. I had a dress that I dyed silver to wear at the wedding. It was a silver dress, and because I figured, jail, silver, prison bars. I don't know. I just made it silver for some reason. I'm thinking now, is that why I did it? I don't even know why I made it silver, but maybe it was. And we get there, and it was a justice of the peace who married us, and he was retiring on July 1st. So this was the last wedding he was ever going to have. And on his desk, it even said something like, oh God, what did his paper? He had a paper on his desk saying like this is it or something. I don't remember, but I used to remember, but I don't anymore. I might have it somewhere. And it was the last wedding he was ever going to do. So we get married, and then me and my friend that night for my honeymoon, there was one little movie theater in this teeny little town in Lake Placid, and we went to the movies, and I saw Witches of Eastwick that night for my honeymoon with her. And then we start planning for a trailer visit. Okay. As soon as we would get the paperwork, everything set for getting a trailer visit, he would get transferred to another place. So he would get to another place, and then I'd start visiting him there, and then we would try to get a trailer visit. And as soon as we would get this close to the trailer visit, he would get transferred to another prison. I went all over this frickin' state like you've never believed. I never even knew these towns, and I've seen a lot of them. And he would get transferred. He even then they thought because I visited him all the time that I was bringing drugs, and he would get searched and I would get searched. And then he got sent to Dannemora, like maximum security, all the way up in God knows where, New York. And sometimes I would go and stay for like a week because I would make friends with some other woman who ends up getting an apartment because she couldn't be too far away from her person. And I'd end up staying with her. I was at a place called Elmira for a week, and there was the Mark Twain Motel, which I used to stay at. And I would walk from the motel to the prison. And years later, I ended up playing in Elmira, and I stayed at the Mark Twain Hotel. And it was just I have a song about that called Unfinished Business. And it's just like life is just crazy. So during all this time, my family had no idea in the world that I got married. Zero. My parents were actually on a trip to Italy when I got married. So they weren't even in the country. They had no idea. Now, I worked for this company. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but I have all these jobs. I worked for a courier company, one of those delivery things. And my dad knew somebody that knew somebody there, and he couldn't understand how my name was not listed. And he never told me this, but he told me after the truth came out, because story plot thickens. The following February, so 1 year after we met, and me visiting him now for all these months, my brother got diagnosed with AIDS. So that kind of took a big part of the family turn, my brother now being ill. And this is now February. And then April, you see, is taxes. And my dad always used an accountant that did our taxes. And I was not giving him my tax information. And he kept bugging me like we'd be in the hospital visiting my brother, and he'd be like, where's your tax stuff? Where's your tax stuff? And I was delaying it. Why didn't I say I'll do my own taxes? I didn't even think that. And I just kept delaying giving him my tax stuff. And finally in the hospital one day, I said, Dad, I have to tell you something. my name is different. I have a different name now. I changed my name. I changed everything. And he was just like, oh, no wonder why so and so couldn't find you at that place. And I was like, yeah. He said, I was looking and they couldn't understand why. So anyway, he found out that I got married. They were very upset. Then they find out that he's in prison. And my brother then starts going in and out of the hospital for almost 2 years. It's like always 2 years. So one time over that summer, when my brother was out of the hospital, we all went on a road trip to Elmira. Family, they wanted to go see him and visit. So my brother and my parents and I all go to visit him in Elmira, and they did that. And I guess they kind of welcomed him into the family. I'm not so sure. But when the whole thing was over, April of 2 years later, after prison, we never got a trailer visit, not one. He comes home, and then my parents want a real wedding. They want us to have a wedding for their friends and family and to make it like legit. So now that my brother's sick, he became best man at this wedding. So it was really a party for him as well. So June 24th, 2 years later, we had a second wedding where my brother was best man. And still, guys, no cell phones, no selfies, no taking pictures of everything. So we don't have a lot of footage. We have photographs, but we don't have a lot of video. We don't have a lot of like all those other kinds of pictures that you have, but we have memories. And we had the wedding. It was awkward. People didn't understand why I wasn't nervous, but I was already married for 2 years. And I had a dress. I was supposed to get married once before, and it never happened. And I had a dress from this wedding that never happened, and I ended up just using that dress. And we had this wedding, and my brother was sick, and we never went on a honeymoon, and we never did anything because the focus of life at that time was my brother. So this was June. My brother lasted, well, he's my producer from up above, until the following December. We got married in June. He passed away December 8th. So it was really all about him. And 1 month later, I got pregnant. Something I thought I was never able to do. I was like pretty much the only girl I ever knew that didn't have an abortion. I thought I couldn't get pregnant. And I had a dream about my brother, and soon after that, I was pregnant with our first child. And I got chills saying that. We have two incredible daughters that, for whatever reasons we're together, it was definitely to make these two children. They are just amazing. This is their little sister. This is the baby now. And our girls, if there was any way to describe the most incredible humans, and trust me, they went through their bumps and stuff too, but they're older now and they are in incredible relationships with their partners. And it's just the biggest blessing in the whole wide world that these two girls exist in this world. And for whatever reason, I'm telling you, that is the reason I believe we're together, is because of these two children. He and I have had many ups and downs, but there's something about us. We have like a loyalty gene. Our relationship, for some reason, like I said earlier, is in a very, very, very sensitive spot right now. But somehow he showed up today to be here. And we're like parallel people. Like there's something very bizarre. I soon found out years later, my grandfather passed away, and I didn't even know this, but February 9th, the day we met, was their wedding anniversary. My grandparents, remember my grandmother's bracelet I was wearing? And my other grandmother, I have chills right now, her name was Evelyn. His mother's name is Evelyn. My grandfather's name is Arthur. His name is Arthur. So I always thought like Arthur and Evelyn, those two grandparents were the ones behind it all, because his name's Arthur, his mother's Evelyn. But then when I found out February 9th is my other grandparents' wedding anniversary, it's like, that like explained the ring from my grandmother and the bracelet from my other grandmother. And we all know about the ring from the Aztec bathroom. that was the one that really made it all come together. And that's pretty much like a lot of the story with a lot left out.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much.